listening to the Baumbastic Podcast with Andrew Ellis on Inside Arkansas.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Baumbastic Podcast presented by Inside Arkansas and hosted by Andrew Ellis. Appreciate everybody for joining me today on a live chat, live stream edition of the show. Apologies for not doing a show yesterday. We were traveling back from San Francisco, putting an end to basketball season, a very sad end to basketball season. But the good news is it is baseball season officially, if it wasn't already before. And the Diamond Hogs are continuing to get the job done. Finished off a really clean sweep of the Vanderbilt Commodores in Nashville. I believe it was the first series win for Arkansas in Nashville since 2010. In my lifetime, I can hardly ever remember Arkansas really playing good baseball against Vanderbilt in Nashville. They made it look easy, man, against a team that I felt like this might be a little bit of a, I don't want to say trap series, because there's not really a trap series in the SEC, and you've got Missouri next weekend, so I don't know if you're looking ahead to anything. I just feel like, man, 10 SEC weekends, you're not going to win them all. You're not going to sweep everyone. This might be a little, one to watch out for, especially with just how well Arkansas has been playing. They have a little bit of a stinker on Tuesday against Missouri State. I know one's going to remember that at all. And so very exciting stuff. Very clean performance. I feel like it's what this Arkansas team needed. And if you had concerns about the pitching staff, which, look, those concerns are warranted. This pitching staff has been a little up and down here, but they put together a really good weekend of ball. They were up. They win 9-0 on Friday night. They win. I can't remember what the final score was yesterday. Pitched really well in that game as well. Got a good outing from Gabe Gackle. Got really good stuff. I guess it was 6-3 was the final in that one, or 6-4. Aiden Jimenez was really good. Landon Beidelshees, I thought, did a decent job. We'll talk about his outing here in a second, but just overall, Arkansas holds Vanderbilt to 3 runs. This isn't the most dynamic offense Arkansas is going to face all year. They will face better tests, but I think this is a big-time weekend to get everyone to just kind of relax a little bit on the pitching staff. We knew coming into the year that Arkansas had a deep stable of arms. What's interesting about this weekend is Arkansas really didn't even have some of their best guys. I mean, Christian Fouch, who I know has not had the year we all hoped and planned for, you don't use him at all this weekend. Will McIntyre, who I know is very polarizing, but a big-time arm for Arkansas, a veteran. You don't use him this weekend at all. Parker Coyle, we'll talk about him, I'm sure. Not available in today's game. You didn't use him this weekend, and he's been kind of the go-to put the fire out guy. Colin Fisher, he's also very good. Did not see him this weekend. Would have loved to see Cole Gibler get in this weekend. That's an arm I really like, but he didn't pitch as well, so it really, you could argue, wasn't even ideal circumstances for Arkansas from a pitching standpoint, but their starters gave them some depth. We've said this a lot. I feel like after each series, I've said, man, Arkansas pitched pretty well and found a way to win, and they only got X amount out of their starters. They only got 2 innings from Gabe Gackle. They only got 3 innings out of Zach Gruder, whatever it is. We always kind of wondered what would happen if Arkansas actually got 3 pretty good starts. We got the answer this weekend. This team's tough to hit against, tough to beat, and this lineup did it with a little bit of everything. It reminded me a little bit of yesterday's game where there was some gorilla ball early, some home runs that kind of set the tone. I believe Arkansas's first 4 runs came via the home run ball. All 3 of Vanderbilt's runs also came via the home run ball as well. But then Arkansas kind of strings it together, gets some walks, had a huge 2-run single from Nolan Souza. And so this offense shows you they can do it in different ways. Let's do a quick rundown of just some of the action that happened. So in the first inning, Vanderbilt has this right-handed pitcher who's throwing about 87, 88, a younger arm for them who's hadn't really thrown a ton. He had good numbers on the year, but had not been throwing a ton. I think this is the longest outing of his career. Was doing like a Max Scherzer impression in the first inning. Was like working quick, wasn't taking his eyes off the catcher's mitt. Was kind of like doing the fidgety, shoving thing. Kind of reminded me of Wes Burton a little bit from Ole Miss. Really held Arkansas down early. They were having a tough time. And then Charles Davalon hits the 2-run home run, which gave Arkansas the lead. Arkansas really wasn't stringing together a ton against him early. And once he left the game, Arkansas faced some of Vanderbilt's best arms, and they actually fared better against them. But again, he pitches well in the first inning. Yeah, the Justin Thomas in the third inning, that's when his double happens. That's when the Charles Davalon home run happens. And it was the fourth inning where Vanderbilt took the lead against Landon Beidelshees. They have a blooper to left field, which you guys, I'm sure there was some controversy there. has a bloop double, and Charles Davalon does a good job coming to it, makes the play, throws to second base. Looked like the guy was out. The guy was trying to stretch a bloop single into a double. He was called safe on the field. They looked at it for a little bit. I thought Souza's tag beat him. The guy didn't really slide into the bag. It kind of just collided with Souza there at second base. They end up calling him safe. And so you have a leadoff double, and then a hit by pitch. I think there was a fly out, and then a hit by pitch, and then a 3-run home run. And so it was weird with Beidelshe's outing. He has 6 hits. He walks 2. I think he also hit 2 batters in this game. So like kind of a lot of action on the base paths. He did a good job limiting the damage for the most part. Like all of the walks and the little base hits that he would give up here and there, those didn't really come back to bite him. It was, again, just this 1 4th inning where it kind of happened really quickly. You have a 3-run home run after 2 unfortunate plays there. That's where he got caught. He did a good job kind of battling damage outside of that. And so I'll pull up the box score real quick just so you guys know what I'm talking about. Here's the box score from today's action. You see there at the bottom, Landon Beidelshe's 5 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, also hit a couple batters. Given that he had 6 hits, 2 walks, and 2 hit by pitches, you'd kind of expect it to be a lot worse. But he ends up only giving up 3 runs, all of which came on the 1 swing there. And so it was kind of a weird outing. But Landon Beidelshe's a veteran. I thought he did a good job kind of battling, getting Arkansas deep into the game, which as a starting pitcher, obviously you want to pitch well, you want to shut down the other team. But ultimately, I think getting deep into the game is really your top priority, especially when you got a little bit of a shorthanded pitching staff. So we move on to the 6th inning. And this is where Vanderbilt, both teams go to their bullpen in the 6th inning. Vanderbilt goes to one of their top right-handed arms, Kranzler, who wears number 77 for Luka Doncic. One of their top arms coming into the weekend. I felt like Vanderbilt's bullpen, they have 3 guys there in the bullpen that have really, really good numbers. And so you kind of wondered if you get late into a game, you get you're facing a deficit against Vanderbilt. It's going to be a tough spot to kind of grind your way back. Turned out to be not the case in this one, but in the 6th inning, they go to Kranzler. I think it was 3 up, 3 down in his first inning. And so you're kind of sitting there doing the math, and you're like, man, Arkansas may have let this one slip away. Now they're going to have to face some of these really good bullpen arms. Kranzler ends up, they tried to get 3 innings out of him. The 6th inning also, by the way, Arkansas goes to Ben Bybee. And I thought this was a very important moment in the game. So again, Arkansas's down 3-2, bottom of the 6th. You go to Ben Bybee, who, by the way, was unbelievable in this game, like unbelievable. We'll talk a little bit more about his outing. But it was kind of a spot in the game where I don't think Arkansas knew what they wanted to do necessarily. And who knows who all was available. But you're kind of throwing Ben Bybee out there as just a kind of, let's see what we can get. This is a guy we've been wanting to work into the weekend mix. You end up throwing him out there. First, he strikes out the first batter he sees, ends up giving up I can't remember if it was a base hit. No, he issued a walk. He issued like a 5-6 pitch walk. So you have 1 on, 1 out. Ends up giving up a double into right center field. Logan Maxwell, he was playing right field, probably should have cut this ball off, but he ends up letting it get all the way to the fence. I thought for sure the runner was going to score from first base. Tim Corbin, who coaches third base for Vanderbilt, throws up the late stop sign. Guy ends up stopping. The runner who hit the double ends up getting caught between second and third. And so Souza's throw comes in home. Helfrich throws it to second base. They end up tagging that guy for a very important second out. It should have been probably a runner at second run scoring, but at the very least, second and third, 1 out. You're looking to put some pressure on. You end up getting a huge second out there. And then I believe Ben Bybee ended up striking out the next hitter. And so kind of a missed opportunity there for Vanderbilt. In the top of the 7th inning, Arkansas had a very similar inning on their front. So again, they run back out Kranzler. First pitch of the inning, I believe, Brent Iredale goes the other way, opposite field single, really good, unselfish swing to get on base. And then with 2 outs, Nolan Souza, who had been really struggling at this point in the series, was struggling to get things going. Of course, also hasn't had the sophomore year we all hoped for. Ends up just smoking a double into the gap in left center field. And with 2 outs, your 8-hole, I'm kind of thinking you got to send Iredale no matter what. You guys, I would like to know what you guys have to say, because I thought that the Vanderbilt did a really good job fielding the ball out there in center field. I think there was their center fielder who played it off the wall perfectly. It was a pretty quick relay. Like, it probably would have been a close play at the plate. Like, I don't know for sure if Brent Iredale was going to score there. Arkansas ends up holding them off. They didn't show a good replay that made it clear whether or not that was a bad or good decision or whatever. So I want to hear what you guys have to say. But I thought it was very interesting. And so you're and it's a 3-2 game, of course. And so at that point, I'm kind of like, man, did Arkansas miss an opportunity? We'll see. The next batter, Justin Thomas, strikes out. And so you go to, I guess it would have been the bottom of the seventh, still down 3-2. Ben Bybee comes back 3 up, 3 down, picks up a strikeout, gives Arkansas another inning and puts up another 0. And so gives Arkansas a chance to kind of settle into the game. I thought that was very important because you had started to get some momentum there against Kranzler offensively. Then you leave a couple runners stranded in scoring position. You feel like you're right there. I thought it was very important for Ben Bybee to come out there, get Arkansas back in the dugout very quickly, keep it a 3-2 game. And then it was a 5-run 8th inning that did the damage for Arkansas, put them on top. And of course, they would not give up that lead. Charles Davalon gets a 2-2 slider up in the zone. Great swing, just really good stuff. Rips it to right field. Again, he had hit the opposite field 2-run home run earlier in the game. And then he hits this one. This one is hit better. The opposite field home run he hit, I think we all were a little surprised it got out, but that's the pros of playing in a rinky-dink baseball park, which Vanderbilt has in Hawkins Field. Charles Davalon's opposite field home run and Logan Maxwell's opposite field home run, which we're going to get to here in a second. Both of those probably are not home runs most SEC venues, but you play in the park that you're in. So Charles Davalon ties the game to start the bottom or the top of the 8th inning with his home run that ties it at 3. Vahivo Lloyd grounds out after him. Logan Maxwell goes opposite field, hits a home run 317 feet, 92 miles an hour off the bat. Now, Vanderbilt, for those that did not watch the game and are not familiar, remember, this is the left field fence that's like a mini green monster a little bit. And so you see the tall fence and you're like, oh, it must be hard to hit a home run to left field. Well, no, because it's 310 feet there. Whereas a lot of parks in the SEC are 320, 325, 330. And so there's like a good bit of, it's a lot shorter. And so with the way Logan Maxwell hit that ball where it was kind of elevated, it had just enough. That would have been a routine fly ball out in Baum-Walker Stadium, would have been a routine fly ball out in Alex Box Stadium, Dudy Noble, pretty much any normal baseball park in the SEC. But luckily, Arkansas is here in Vanderbilt. And so now you have a 4-3 lead. And again, this is against Kranzler. This is against one of Vanderbilt's, pretty much their top bullpen arm. This is the guy that Vanderbilt really needed to win today, didn't want to get swept. They go to their best arm when they have a lead late in the game. Arkansas gets 2 huge swings from their outfield there, and it didn't stop there. So Brent Iredale follows with his second single, back-to-back innings where he had a single, just kind of a blooper to center field there. And then Vanderbilt decides to go to their big left-handed arm, McIlvain, who had been a weekend arm for them, a weekend starter in years past. They're trying to make him a weekend arm now, or a weekend bullpen arm now. Big-time lefty with big-time stuff, 95, 96 mile-an-hour fastball. Just did not have it today, man. He ends up walking Cam Kojal, ends up walking Ryder Helfrich on a pretty close 3-2 pitch. And so then you have bases loaded, 4-3 game, and you have a left-on-left matchup with Nolan Souza here, who, again, just had a double last inning, but has been struggling a little bit, and it's a left-on-left matchup, and so you still feel pretty good. First pitch he throws, gets by the catcher, ends up bringing home another run, a nice insurance run for Arkansas. They go up 5-3 there, and then Nolan Souza, my guy, hits another strong opposite field swing. This one goes off the wall in left field, that very short left field fence. And I think Nolan Souza here, being a young guy, underestimated how easy it was going to be to play this ball off the wall. Ends up getting thrown out at second base, but it scores, again, 2 very big insurance runs. So Arkansas goes into the bottom of the ninth up 7-3. And that ended up being, more than enough. Ben Bybee goes out there, works around, I believe it was a 1-out single, ends up picking up a strikeout, his 7th strikeout of the game. Let's pull up the box score here real quick one more time. You see Ben Bybee's numbers there. 4 innings, 2 hits, 1 walk, 0 runs, 7 strikeouts. Dude throws 62 pitches, 42 of them are for strikes. I thought this was the best outing of Ben Bybee's career. This is a guy that has been kind of working for years now in this Arkansas bullpen and this Arkansas pitching staff, trying to make his way up to the circle of trust, which I've recently put him in. Didn't feel great about it, if I'm being honest with you. I thought this was the most important outing of his career, like all things considered. He's a guy that has been a midweek starter for Arkansas. We know he has good stuff. We've talked about it on the show 1,000 times. We've been waiting for him to kind of take that next step and be a legitimate weekend arm that Arkansas can count on, whether that's as a starter, whether that's as a setup guy, closer, whatever. Comes into this game with a 3-2 deficit, faces a little bit of adversity there in his first inning, battles out of it, puts up a 0, winds up going 4 innings and striking out 7. The one thing that I've always, and I've been critical of Ben Bybee a little bit. I love Ben Bybee. I love his dad. I love his family. Like I'm a huge fan of him. Kansas City guy. Love that he's been a Hog for years. You know, he could have gone anywhere else in the country and been probably a weekend starter. Realistically, he could have gone somewhere in the SEC and been a weekend starter, but he wanted to be a Hog. He stuck it out here, and he's been trusting the process, trusting the coaching staff. So he's a guy that I've been like begging to like take that next step. The thing that's always frustrated me with Ben Bybee is he'll get ahead 0-2 and not know how to put hitters away. He'll either leave a pitch too far over the plate, or he'll end up throwing a ton of balls, end up walking a guy. Like felt like that was kind of the next step he needed to take. And he's got great stuff, man. And his fastballs, 93, 95 consistently with a ton of late life. He got a ton of swings and misses on that fastball, elevated up in the zone, was locating it really well. I loved how he was able to get swings and misses with his slider. He mixed in slider, curveball, and change today. So, I mean, he's a guy that, of course, has started before. You see why Arkansas viewed him in that kind of mold. He can it's a legitimate 4-pitch mix. I mean, this is a kid that's 1,000% going to get drafted. Like scouts are 100% going to look at his stuff and say, hey, we can do something with that. And I think it's awesome to see it happen in real time, see the gears starting to turn in his head, and he take that next step from just a projectable, big right-handed pitcher to a legitimate, borderline dominant force here in the SEC. I mean, he dominated this game. He completely shut the door, ends up getting the win in this one. And it's one thing to have a nice midweek outing. It's one thing to come into an SEC game and get a few outs, which is what he's been doing the last couple weeks. I thought this was, again, a little bit of a step up for him, step up in terms of the talent that we see on display, in terms of the role he's had for this Arkansas team. You want to earn some trust with the coaching staff. That's the way to do it. And so Ben Bybee, kudos to you, man. He was another guy who didn't have a great outing on Tuesday in that midweek game. And so I'd thrown him into the circle of trust after he came in and pitched well against South Carolina. And then I was kind of like, man, are we sure he's really in there? But there's no doubt he's going to have his full name in the circle of trust this week. And so really good stuff to see. We'll pull up the box score one more time, and then we'll get into the chat. I appreciate everybody for being in here. I'm going to get to your chats in just a second. I really appreciate you guys for being here. And like I said, I wasn't here yesterday. We were traveling. Didn't have time to get in front of a camera and do the show. So if you want to talk about anything from the weekend, from Saturday, Sunday, big picture about this Razorback team, we want to talk about it. So you see Charles Davalon there with the 2 hits, 2 home runs, drives in 3 with those. Dude continues. He's hitting over 400. I saw Stu Hogg, shout out to our guy, Corey Stewart. Stu Hogg was tweeting out that he scored more runs through whatever it is, 28 games, 29 games or whatever, scored more runs than any Razorback ever through the first 30 games of the season. Really good stuff to see. But Hevo Lloyd did not have a great weekend. Goes 0 for 5 in this game. Did have a couple hits yesterday. Swung the bat okay. But not a great offensive day for him or his brother. The 2 Lloyd brothers were the only 2 Razorbacks to not reach base in this game. Don't think we'll see that too often. Logan Maxwell had the 1 hit, and it was a very big one. Bern Iredale had a couple singles, came around to score on the 1. Thought he swung the bat pretty well. Cam Kojal had a base hit. I think it was an opposite field base hit in his first at-bat. So a little bit of a quiet compared to the standard he set here this weekend, but another nice day at the office for him. Souza with the 2 hits, Justin Thomas with the opposite field double. Arkansas has 9 hits in this game, but I feel like they really made the most of it. Like everyone who reached base kind of put some pressure on the defense and made it, had an impact in this game. So really good stuff from this lineup. And I think that's the story. One, I feel like if we're talking about stories of the season for this Razorback team, the lineup overall, obviously much, much better, just a top to bottom, much more dangerous lineup. The punch they've gotten from the outfield, that was kind of the one big question we had after last season. They got to answer something in the outfield. Logan Maxwell, Charles Davalon continue to be those dudes. Justin Thomas also been swinging the bat pretty well here lately, had some huge hits yesterday. I think no doubt about it across the board, Arkansas's outfield is just much better. And then I feel like the bottom of the lineup, that stretch there with Souza, Helfrich, and Thomas, those guys continue to just do enough. And I feel like Thomas and Souza contributed 3 runs in this game. And like, that's a big deal. You can get that out of them. We'll take that 9 times out of 10. So let's get into a chat, guys. Again, appreciate everybody for being here. We're going to try to cover it all. So if I miss your chat, I'm sorry. I'll try to get to all of them. But I really appreciate everybody popping in and hanging out for a little bit. So HH, my guy, he wants to know, tell me why I shouldn't panic about Coyle's situation. So he's referencing Parker Coyle, of course. Now, Parker Coyle, I hope I'm not missing anything because I'm hoping HH is just referencing him not being available today. So Parker Coyle entered the weekend as probable. He was listed on the SEC availability report as probable, and I believe it's a back injury. It's something that, I don't know that I'm not a doctor. I'm not a chiropractor. Seems like something that's been bothering him. They've had like a little heating pad on it when he's been seen in the bullpen. From what I can tell, they got him up in the bullpen yesterday and then sat him down. So I don't know if he went to go throw and then tweak something, or just maybe was in pain, or maybe just wasn't throwing it right, but he was not available for today's game. I would say, HH, do not panic because, it's a back injury, which is not good. I mean, nobody wants to have a back injury, but, it's a little bit different than like his elbow's sore or, his shoulder. It's something that like really is going to affect his arm. Obviously, still back injury, something to monitor. I would recommend, if I had to guess, I would say they sit him for a week or two and then hope it kind of is no longer sore and hope it's not something that's lingering. I would much rather them do that than put him out there and re-injure it, which it seems like is kind of what happened yesterday. And so, look, it's not ideal to not have Parker Coyle. He's been an awesome arm for Arkansas. Hell, he's got a 0.6 ERA right now. He's been kind of the go-to mess cleaner upper. The reason why you shouldn't panic is because it's going to give some opportunities to some of these other cats, like a Ben Bybee, who made the most of his opportunity today, like a Colin Fisher. We'll see if he gets an opportunity on the weekend, like a Cole Gibbler, the guy I've been kind of begging for. And so Parker Coyle, I don't imagine this is going to be like a, who knows? I'm not a doctor. Don't trust my medical advice. The vibe I got was not that this was like going to be something that ruins his season. It was just going to be something that's bothering him. He wasn't available today. We'll see if he's available moving forward. But I didn't get the vibes of like long-term injury. But also, I don't know. We'll hear what Dave has to say after the game. Maybe he says something different. Let's see. My boy Garrett McCollum. Really appreciate him and his contribution. He was filling in for me while I was away. Covered the baseball beat here at Baumwalker last week, and he says big time sweep. Davalon much better than advertised, damaging hitters 1 through 9. Big righty arms out of the pen. Feels reminiscent of the 2018 club. Yeah, Davalon, man. Like I think we all liked the addition. We see the numbers at Florida Gulf Coast. We knew he had a little bit of buzz as a prospect, as a draft eligible sophomore. I definitely would not have told you he was going to be hitting 400 at this point in the season. He hit 10 home runs last year at Florida Gulf Coast. He hit his 8th and 9th home runs today. And so Logan Maxwell, we've talked a lot about his power surge of sorts. And of course, he hit, I believe, his 8th home run today for Logan Maxwell. And this is a guy that had 5 career home runs coming into the year. That's been a consistent theme with Arkansas bringing in transfers. Even if they don't necessarily turn it around and have a great batting average, they usually hit for a ton of power. We saw that with Tavian Josenberger, saw that with Jace Borfin, saw that with Michael Turner, saw that with Jared Wagner. We've seen that with a few of these guys. Hell, saw it with Jared Spraglott as well. Like, these guys typically develop their power under Arkansas and under Nate Thompson and under Hunter Bell, the strength coach. Like, these dudes get bigger and stronger. And Charles Davalon is certainly, I feel like he's not only exceeded expectations, just blown expectations out of the water. Shout out to David Scott. He says Bybee was outstanding today. Yeah, Bybee was unbelievable, man. Like and Gunner File says Bybee has looked locked in SEC play. So yeah, let me do that. I hope I'm doing the math right. He came in and threw 2 scoreless innings against Ole Miss in the opening weekend. And in that situation, it was like a little bit of a low leverage situation that they brought him into, and he ended up looking really good. And I remember in the moment thinking, okay, maybe that can be a springboard to get him going. I didn't necessarily believe that. I just kind of was like, okay, maybe you can get something there. Came in and threw 1 inning in a 4-2 game, which may not sound like a big deal, but I thought that was important that Arkansas went to him last weekend in what was pretty much a high leverage situation, and he came through. Today they went for him for more than 1 inning, and he just continues to build. He's throwing better on the weekends than he's throwing in the midweeks. And so hopefully Arkansas doesn't throw him in Little Rock on Tuesday. I can't imagine they do after he threw 50 pitches today. But Ben Bybee, man, congratulations. Welcome officially locked in to the circle of trust, and welcome to the weekend bullpen mix, man. You're officially there, and the dude's earned it, no doubt about it. Shout out to Fish, man, my guy. One of our rowdier chatters, he's a little bit of a roller coaster, can get high, can get low. But I really appreciate him and his contribution and his passion. He says, I wasn't a baseball guy until Andrew started covering the team. Maybe he's just lying. Maybe he's just making fun of me. I don't know, but this means a lot to me. I don't want to say like I'm trying to like convert people who aren't baseball guys, but my goal, I think I said this last year, if I can make your enjoyment of baseball season even like 1% better, make your experience as a fan watching the team a little bit better, then I feel like I've accomplished what I wanted to do here with the Baumbastic Podcast. And I really appreciate just anybody who listens, whether you're a baseball diehard or just a casual fan who kind of wants to keep up with the team a little bit. I really appreciate everybody who tunes in, man. And this comment means a lot to me, Fishman. So I really appreciate it. Bids from me. Another legendary commenter who's always tapped in with us says Kojal scored more runs this weekend by himself than Vandy did all series. He scored 8 runs. That's crazy. That's a crazy stat right there. And man, how about that for the Vandy transfer to be back in what he describes as Smashville and to be crushing it like that, man. That's awesome stuff. Really good to see and hard not to be happy for him. And he's another guy. You want to talk about being better than advertised? Cam Kojal, certainly that. Garrett follows up with hard not to be excited, I think is what that's supposed to say. Hard to not be excited when arguably your 3 best hitters in a Lloyd ×2 and Iredale just had subpar weekends and Hogs still sweep at Vandy. Yeah. And I think, again, that's kind of what sets this Razorback team apart is it's not like Arkansas hasn't had good hitters in the past couple years. They've had some good hitters, but, usually like last year, if you were able to, contain Peyton Stovall, you were able to contain Kendall Diggs, who got, contained quite a bit. You were able to contain Ben McLaughlin, able to keep him off base. Like, there really wasn't that much. They didn't have the length in the lineup, the depth to really like force you to like where you can't pitch around guys. You could pitch around some dudes last year. You really can't do that this year, man. Like there's just if one guy, if you avoid the big hit in one inning, you're going to get it the next. If you walk around this guy, the next guy's going to make you pay. And so it's just really good to see a lineup 1 through 9 putting pressure on teams like that. Let's see. Hunter Ratio says best team in the nation. Can't wait for that Tennessee series. Yeah, I mean, at this point, I feel like Arkansas and Tennessee are for sure, resume wise in terms of just what they've done so far this year. Still pretty early. I feel like they've kind of separated from the pack. Although Georgia, actually, let me take that back. Georgia is right in that mix as well. They've been unbelievable. I think they're 28-2. They've looked dominant in SEC play. So maybe Georgia's in that mix as well. Yeah, that's right. LSU had a pretty good weekend against Mississippi State. There's some really, really good teams in the SEC. And you guys should be thrilled because Arkansas gets to play pretty much all of them. The first half of SEC play is a little bit easier. I mean, Arkansas's 8-1 right now. They're playing Missouri at home next weekend, which is literally as easy of a weekend as you can get in the SEC. And so Arkansas could have a pretty gaudy record here after the next few games. But you're going to get tested really quickly. You're going to face Florida on the road. You're going to face Georgia on the road. You're going to face an A&M team at home, which isn't not having a great year so far, but they're going to have some desperation. They're going to be playing with their hair on fire. Tennessee, number 1 team in the country. They'll be at Baum-Walker Stadium. LSU, you got to go on the road. They're going to probably be in the top 5 at that point. You're going to have Texas, who has looked really good. They're kind of sneaky. They're sneaky in that top 5 to 10 range as well. You get them at Baum-Walker Stadium. And so if this Razorback team ends up having the best record in the SEC this year, it's because they earned it. It's because they faced the best teams and they came out on top. And even if regardless of what the record ends up being, we're gonna see this Razorback team tested. I felt like they were tested this weekend and just passed the test with flying colors. And Vanderbilt also just might not be great, particularly in the hitting department. But I definitely think Arkansas, they've put together a pretty impressive resume to this point in the season so far. Addison says first time sweeping Vandy since 2005. Fishman also says Nashville sweep is really awesome. So yeah, Vanderbilt. Actually, I want to talk about this for just a second. So Vanderbilt, again, leading into the series, I was trying to give Vanderbilt their flowers. I try to do that a lot. I don't know if you guys noticed. I try and hype up the team that Arkansas is playing on the weekend as much as possible so that if Arkansas wins the series, it looks as good as possible. That's kind of the methodology there. Vanderbilt, it's not that I didn't believe it. I really thought hey, this pitching staff, this is going to be a nice test for Arkansas. And I feel like they proved to be that. I mean, Arkansas scored 9 runs in game 1, 6 in game 2, 7. So that's 22 runs. That's 7 runs a game. That's a pretty good showing, but it was, I feel like this performance for this Arkansas offense means more than what they did against South Carolina last week when they just kind of raked through 3 games because you were facing a legitimate pitching staff that had been holding down some other teams. And Vanderbilt has some pretty good arms, but I think what really jumped out to me when I watched these two teams this weekend is just the talent gap is pretty stark between Arkansas and Vanderbilt. 10 years ago, could y'all have ever imagined saying that sentence, that Arkansas and Vanderbilt, there's a massive talent discrepancy in favor of Arkansas? Not that Arkansas hasn't been having a ton of talented teams, but I mean, think about it. Even just 5 years ago, Vanderbilt was like the standard in college baseball. Tim Corbin, obviously, I think he's the only coach in the SEC with multiple national titles at this point. He's been that guy. Like, he's one of the most respected figures in the sport for very good reason. I feel like Vanderbilt in this kind of new era of college baseball, other teams have caught up. But I think that, again, that's what kind of jumped out is like Vanderbilt just doesn't have the dudes that Arkansas has, which is a good feeling when you're on this side of it. But when I think about Vanderbilt big picture, you know, they lose in the national title game in 2021. They won the national title in 2019. And so those two completed seasons, which are back to back, you know, clearly Vanderbilt was still kind of that standard in college baseball. They weren't bad in 2022. They actually beat Arkansas in Fayetteville, but it was a little bit of a step back. I think they got bounced in a regional. And then they were really, in 2023 and 2024, I feel like really took a step back to being just average SEC team. So I feel like there was a little bit of pressure on Tim Corbin and on Vanderbilt. Of course, I'm not saying Vanderbilt should like fire Tim Corbin, but I think it's worth having the conversation of like, where is Vanderbilt in terms of the SEC hierarchy? I feel like a lot of programs, like in Arkansas, like a Tennessee, I mean, LSU's always been good, but like a Georgia, like they're starting to kind of pull away. And I feel like Vanderbilt's kind of stuck in this little mediocrity range here. And so we'll see how Vanderbilt ends up. But I think, of course, they're going to face worse teams than Arkansas. They'll be able to beat some teams. But it'll be very interesting to see like how Vandy fans respond to, being kind of average. Cody James says, what's more surprising, Arkansas being this damn good so far, or the other teams in conference starting out so shitty? Well, I would say, Cody, look, there's some teams, A&M is I'm sure one of the teams you had in mind when you said that. But if you look around, man, there's some damn good teams that have started out pretty well. I mean, Tennessee, I think they've only lost one game. Of course, they got to play South Carolina this weekend as well. LSU lost a series at Texas last week, but they have not lost a game outside of that. Georgia's looked pretty gaudy. It's just kind of new teams that are starting, not new teams like out of nowhere, but I think there's kind of a new era in the SEC where some of these other teams, Florida and Vandy, are starting to kind of get lost in that shuffle a little bit. Florida, man, they're really going through it. I did not expect them to kind of do what they did last year again, and they ended up going to Omaha last year. We'll see if they can turn it around, but I definitely expected Florida and A&M to be a little bit better. Fitz from me says, sucks that we play Zoo next weekend. Complete waste of time. Is it really a waste of time? Just pick up 3 easy wins. Let's all have fun at Baum-Walker Stadium, man. Next week is like our official coronation of baseball season. This weekend certainly helps getting the sweep, especially after the disappointment, the heartbreak on Thursday with basketball. Next weekend, we'll all get to party at Baum-Walker Stadium. The official opening of college baseball season, at least in Fayetteville. Can we all agree on that? Let's get this thing going. Hunter Ratio says, do you think Cahillo will really heat back up again? I mean, yeah, he will. And look, this is the thing that I've been kind of saying all along with Cahillo Aloyes, and like a lot of these Razorback hitters, they're just a little bit boom or bust. I mean, we've seen Brent Iredale. The first 2 weeks in SEC play was really struggling to get it going. We've seen Vahiva, who's, had a rough weekend today. We've seen him have his struggles, but I feel like all 3 of those guys are just going to do enough over the course of time where you just have to live with it. For as much as I need to know, because I've seen a lot of people being like, oh, Cahillo, he's just falling off a cliff. Cahillo's horrible. He just now, today, snapped a 12-game hit streak for Cahillo Aloy. So even if he was horrible and all that, he was still hitting over 300 in SEC play coming into today. I'm sure that's changed now. He's still been pretty good. And he's still so much of a threat. He's still going to work his walks. But I feel like he's due to run into a baseball and just absolutely hit 500 feet here soon. He's had a little bit of a power drought, which I definitely don't expect to continue. And then, GM says the thing's very encouraging. Top 3 big hitters were subpar and the Hawks still score well. 100%. I want to touch on this from Vids from me because he says, announcers had me super excited when they say Dietz was warming up. So, yeah, man, it's I don't know what was going on with the commentary team today. I saw Andrew Hutchinson, my buddy. He said that they were calling the game remotely. Like they were calling it from their houses, which, I'm at my house right now. No shame in that, but I think we all agree it's not the same when you don't have the play-by-play and the color guy there in the arena. They're in the park where they can kind of see the direction of things. Oh, foul ball. Oh, yeah, that almost hit a car out there. You're calling the game from your house. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit tougher. And when you're the fan watching from your house, you would like for whoever's telling you about the game to have a little bit more insight. And to say that today's commentators, and I feel bad because Mike Rooney, who works for D1 Baseball, has been around the game forever. I think he does a great job historically. Like, I think he's a good baseball mind, of course. He's covered the sport really well over the years. I don't know what happened. Like, I don't know if he had a late night last night or if he just kind of forgot to do his research coming into this game or what. He was all over the place today. Him and I think it was Tom Hart also were just kind of not there. Again, I don't know if maybe they just didn't know they were calling the game until an hour before, but you could tell they had not spoken to either coach. They had not gotten the rundown on anything. I mean, they said Hunter Dietz was warming up. Again, I think they just saw his name down there in the bullpen and were like, oh, that's the guy warming up. But if you had a 5-minute conversation with Dave Van Horn, he would have told you Hunter Dietz is not going to be available for the next couple of weeks, which is what he told all of us a few days ago. That was just a little bit funny. They thought that Justin Thomas's ground rule double was a home run. They were like, it's gone. And I'm like, did you not see it bounce right there? I mean, in that shitty ass turf field, you didn't see it bounce up. I thought that was funny. And then Charles Davalon hits a home run the next pitch. And I don't think they realized it was gone. They were like, oh, yeah, it's a fly ball. Oh, yeah. And I'm like, that's a home run, buddy. That's a 2-0 lead is what that is. They were just a little bit out of it today, man. I don't know. But yeah, I saw a few people that were like, oh, Hunter Dietz is back, man. That's big time, man. That's big time. That's tough. Let's see. Kip C says, now, can some of the fans relax a bit after overreacting last week? 5 straight SEC road wins ain't too bad. No, it's definitely not. I would also say that Arkansas's their series win against Ole Miss in Oxford has aged pretty well. I don't think Ole Miss, they finally lost game 3 to Florida. I think they lost game 3 10-9, but they won a series against Florida, which is impressive. They swept, I guess it would have been Missouri that they played last week. They swept Missouri. And so, they're 5-1 since leaving Fayetteville. They seem to be a pretty good team. I think they're going to be a tournament team, no doubt about that. And so we kind of knew that in the moment, but good to feel a little bit vindicated that Ole Miss has still played some pretty good ball since then. And hell, even South Carolina, who does stink, they're not going to make the tournament. They're not going to be very good. Was kind of keeping it close with Tennessee for a couple of these games this weekend. I saw they had like the bases loaded and nobody out today. Couldn't get anything home, but it's not like Tennessee has just come in there and made quick work of them in all 3 games. But I thought it was pretty good, and definitely agreed, Kip C. Like I've seen a lot of high and low, and fans kind of overreacting to things. When you have a team that is whatever Arkansas is 26-3 now, we shouldn't be living a roller coaster. Like I get being upset when your team doesn't play well, but like, come on, guys. Especially after that midweek game, there were a lot of people who were very heated up about that, and I feel vindicated for not getting too upset. Shout out to JP Sullivan, man. Our turkey strut legend, man. He says, great sweep, man. It's nice to have a lethal offense that can beat you so many ways. How about that squeezy 10th inning last night? Yeah, how about that, man? Arkansas takes the lead, and then they say, you know what, we're going to try and push an insurance run across. You get back-to-back really good bunts. Kojal's was like a flawless squeeze play. Helfrich's maybe should have been fielded better, but again, that's kind of the whole notion of the small ball is kind of forcing the opponent to make some plays. I've always said that's not going to be like what this team does. Like in the offseason, I think people were kind of sold this narrative that Arkansas that's going to be like a huge part of their offense. And if you would have listened to the podcast, you would have known that wasn't the case. But it's good to have it in your back pocket to do. And I think there's situations for small ball. There's situations where you do need to shorten up. And so it's good to see this Arkansas team that not only can hit home runs, but they're also hitting for average. And they showed yesterday when they need to clutch up and do some situational work and put some pressure on teams in different ways, they do that as well. And so really good stuff. No doubt about that. A few people giving Ben Bybee, with Ben Bybee, giving Ben Bybee his props that he very much deserves. Vids from me says, I agree with JT coming up. Got to send Iredale there. So again, I agree with this sentiment, like of when it's 2 outs, you're always kind of like, hey, go ahead and send that runner. You're okay to make the 3rd out at home plate. They always say, don't make the 1st or 3rd out at third base. Because when, there's one out, when there's two outs, you don't want to make the third out at third base because there's no real difference between second and third. I'm okay whenever it's two outs to go ahead and send that runner home because you might not get an opportunity to score. Again, I didn't see a good camera angle that would really show. Like, I have no idea where Iredale was at when he got the stop sign. I have no idea where the ball was at. I felt like Vandy did a good job of getting it in and fielding it pretty cleanly and getting it, to where if they had sent him, they were going to have a chance to throw him out. But I probably agree. Iredale, by the way, that's another thing. On the broadcast, they were like, yeah, Iredale, not really a fast runner. And I'm like, I mean, not that he's a burner, but like Iredale's not I would say he's got above average athleticism, especially for third base. Like I feel like, and he's stolen some bases too. I would have had no problem. I wouldn't have, if he had gotten thrown out, I wouldn't have been like, what the hell, Bobby Wernes? Because like you said, you had the 9-hole coming up. There's two outs. It's also a 3-2 game. Like make the team make a play, but who knows? Hindsight is always 2020. Jesse Thurman says that RJ Austin kid for Vandy is a pretty good center fielder. He definitely is. And I cracked up because Rooney referenced him as one of the best players in the SEC, which is objectively like not a true statement. Like he's not that, but he is a damn good defender out there in center field. He's also a guy that I think he hit like 320, 330 last year. Not a big power guy, but like hits for a pretty good average. I think he's hitting around 300 this year, and he's an elite defender in center field. Really good athlete. He probably saved Vanderbilt at least a couple runs, but like probably cost Arkansas 4 or 5 hits over the course of the weekend. Just running down everything out there in center field, man. Really good stuff. Ryan Bryant, my guy, I always appreciate him in the chat. He says, sorry I'm late. Woo damn pig. Lit a few maple flavored candles for my boy Davalon today. Hell yeah, man. Love that stuff. And then Gunner follows up with some more complimentary stuff of RJ Austin says him in center field, I feel like is the only reason all 3 games weren't blowouts. He made a lot of good defensive plays. I would agree with that, man. Rod One says Arkansas is a national championship type of squad. So this sentence, one, is extremely true. I agree wholeheartedly. And I think anytime we're talking about this Razorback team, and we're going to continue to do that because that's what we do here on the show. We react to everything. We dissect the whole thing. This statement needs to be in the back of your mind. Could they shore some things up in the back end of the bullpen? Sure. Will they switch up roles? When Gage Wood comes back? Sure. Will they move some guys around in the lineup? I don't know. But at the end of the day, like I think we all should be on the same page and agree this is a national championship type of squad. That doesn't mean that they're going to win the national title. Hell, it doesn't even mean that they're like favored to win it. But I feel like every year in college baseball, there's about 4 to 6 teams who really check all the boxes, have all the pieces, and can win the national title. Obviously, once you get into the tournament, anything can happen. I feel like Arkansas, without a shadow of a doubt, is one of those teams. Will they do it? We shall see. But I definitely think they have a title type of team. There's no aspect of this Razorback team where I'm like, this is not good enough to win a title, in my opinion. Let's see. I think Kip C says only game all year that neither of the Aloy brothers got hit. Which, this sounds right. I'll take his word for it. I know they were the only 2 guys in the lineup today who did not reach base. So really good, really good stuff to see there. I'm behind on the chat a little bit. Like these chats I'm responding to are like 408 or whatever. So I'll get to your chats later, but I see this one from Z Goose. I touched on this afterwards, but he says, was 100 Eats actually warming up? They were very confused. No doubt about that. They were absolutely confused. Rhett Moore, I like this comment. He says, daydreaming about this bullpen when we get Gage Wood back and Fouch gets his ish together. Disgusting. No, I think that's certainly worth noting. There was a point earlier this year, especially when Fouch was struggling, and this was before Aiden Jimenez and Ben Bybee really started to emerge, and Gage Wood was, of course, out, where I was like, man, does Arkansas have like enough right-handed arms in the bullpen? Like, of course, Will McIntyre is a guy that veteran. We're going to count on him in big moments, no doubt about that. I'm sure we'll see him soon. But I kind of wondered, I'm like, does Arkansas really have like enough power arms there from the right side? Of course, Parker Coyle had been good all year. Colin Fisher at this point was doing really well. Cole Gibbler I really like. But I wondered, I'm like, does Arkansas have enough right-handed power arms? Especially because you had Gackle really struggling at that point. That narrative has really changed a lot here lately with Aiden Jimenez doing what he's been doing. Ben Bybee, of course, throwing the ball really well. And then you imagine getting Gage Wood back. I should also mention Carson Wiggins, who I think has been really good as well. You get Gage Wood back to add into that mix, and we still don't know what that role is going to look like. Me personally, I would love to see Gage Wood as like the multi-inning closer for this Razorback team, but he's throwing the ball so well, man. He was throwing it really well before he got hurt. Seems like he's going to still be a factor in that starting rotation, which more power to him, man. It's a good problem to have, no doubt about that. But yeah, Fouch is another one, man. Like, I understand why everybody's out on Fouch right now. Clearly has not gone his way, has not been firm. And the command is not great. But here's what I need y'all to understand. Fouch's command was not great last year when he had a sub-1 ERA. So like this notion that like, oh, he's got to clean up his command a ton. When you throw 100 miles an hour, there's kind of a lot of margin for error. And of course, he's in high leverage situations. Arkansas has a very short leash on him as well. And I think that's worth noting, where we're talking about a guy who's, at the end of the day, he's going to be asked to get 3 outs more times than not. He's going to be a guy that, hey, go in there, throw 1 inning. If you're going great, we'll maybe give you another inning. It's not like a guy that they're going to need to stretch out and they're expecting 3-4 innings a weekend out of him. We're talking about a guy that, hey, it's a 4-2 game, go pitch the 7th and put up a 0. Like that's his job at the end of the day. And so, of course, he does have to clean up his command to an extent. But the idea, I don't think he I think he's a lot closer to being an effective setup guy than I think people realize. And now we'll see, how long it takes for them to get him back on the mound there. I took him out of the circle of trust myself. So as much as I'm defending him, I also agree with you guys that he hasn't been great. But I do think, like, let's not get it twisted. Like, it's not going to take too much for him to get things on track here. I see Fishman says, what's up with Gage? I know a lot of people have been asking about Gage Wood, of course, and it's been a very big story. So I'll just go ahead and do this now, and hopefully this kind of clears things up, although these are always subject to change. So Gage Wood, again, was not available this weekend. Last we heard was on Wednesday from Dave, who said, hey, he doesn't have any soreness. He's on track. Things are good. My understanding is that he's going to, at some point here in the next few days, will throw to live hitters. Obviously not in game. I'm not saying he's going to pitch in Little Rock, which, by the way, Arkansas will be in Little Rock Tuesday. That's going to be a fun game against Grambling. Love playing in Dickey Stevens. He's going to be throwing behind closed doors to live hitters, and he's kind of on track. I mean, when he first got hurt, we heard 4 to 6 weeks. I think it's been 5 or 6 weeks at that point, and so we're getting really close. Of course, they're going to be cautious with it. So it's not one of those, let's get him out there as quickly as possible. And like I've been saying, I kind of like that Arkansas has been able to get some of these other guys some work here lately. I think you could see him next weekend against Missouri. I think that would, if all goes well, there's no setbacks or anything, I think it's very much in play. That's not me reporting guaranteed he's going to pitch next week against Missouri. There's a lot that has to happen between now and then, but I think you could see him as soon as, next weekend. More than likely, though, it'll be the weekend after that at Georgia. Me personally, I would love to see him against Missouri because I just do not want Gage Wood, who's been out for what will have been like 2 months by that point. You bring him back and you're like, hey, here's the best lineup in the SEC at Georgia. We're on the road. The 8th inning is yours. That's a tough situation. And so, but it is very interesting, and we'll see. But hopefully, I mean, it does seem like we're nearing the end of the Gage Wood absence. Let's see. My boy Ryan Bryant says, not arguing that we should be pitching him, but I take it that Ross Felder will take a red shirt and come back next year. I'm assuming this is a conversation that was had or agreed upon. I think that's probably a safe assumption. And look, Ross Felder, by the way, I mean, I'm with you, Ryan. Like he was throwing the ball really well leading up to the season. And so I definitely, if you had told me, that he was not going to throw in the first 2 months of the season, I would have been a little surprised. Like I was a little surprised, particularly that they pitched Steele Eves instead of him. Cause I thought Felder and Tag Andrews both were throwing better than Steele Eves. But to your point, Ryan, I think that probably was an agreed upon thing. Of course, Ross Felder, all three of those guys, in-state kids. And so I think a lot of times as a coach, you have to make a lot of tough decisions. I think he probably had to have had some type of conversation, whether it was DVH, Matt Hobbs, where Felder maybe gave them some assurance that, hey, you don't have to pitch me this year. Nowadays, you have a lot of kids who have that mentality of like, if you don't pitch me, I'm out. I'm gone. And luckily, for the coaching staff and for Felder, whoever, there has been a trend here lately of people not pitching a ton early and then getting chances later. I mean, Ben Bybee threw a good bit as a freshman, him and Parker Coyle both, but those are guys that had to stick around for a few years before they really actually developed real roles for this team. Jake Farady's a guy that, I mean, he finished his career with like 20-something innings or whatever, through 1 inning in 2 years combined. And then as a junior ends up having a real role for Arkansas, ends up getting drafted, and the rest is history. I'm a little surprised that Felder hasn't gotten a chance, but like you said, I think that probably was something they agreed upon. And also, like, on this particular team, Dave always says, like, I'm not just going to play you just to play you, like they redshirted Reese Robinette last year. Could he have helped them? I'm sure he could, but it was like, if we're not going to play this guy every day, why play him at all and waste his red shirt? I think with Felder, they probably thought he's not going to pitch on the weekends, in big time series, which is not a knock on him. I mean, he's a true freshman. So why pitch him, 2 or 3 innings here and there against Grambling and UAPB if we're not really going to use him and really develop him? And so we shall see. JP Sullivan says it would be a travesty if this team isn't in Omaha. I would agree, man. I would definitely agree. MF Pig, I love this. He says, Andrew, you think we've done enough for Perfect Game to put us in the top 10? I love this. So Perfect Game, of course, had Arkansas at number 13 to start the year. They've kind of started to backtrack a little bit. They're starting to put Arkansas up there just a little bit, but they're going to be fine. Ryan says, Ellis, should we start to worry about the bullpen overall? No, and I'm curious as to what you're referencing here. I mean, because the only bullpen pitcher Arkansas had in this game was Ben Bybee, who went 4 innings and had the best outing of his career. And so I think that's a very positive development for Arkansas. You've obviously got a couple guys that are injured right now in Parker Coyle and Gage Wood, but those are guys that are going to help you. Aiden Jimenez has been unbelievable. He's clearly a guy that's going to help you a lot. Carson Wiggins, who gave up a run yesterday, and I saw some people kind of souring on Carson Wiggins a little bit, and why are they pitching him? I don't understand. He walks guys, and I get all that, but like Carson Wiggins is a freaking dynamite arm. He's going to have some really good games for Arkansas here down the stretch. He's a guy that I trust, frankly. Fouch, I did my whole rant on him. A few other guys in that mix like Fisher, a Will McIntyre, Gibbler, whoever. It might not be every weekend you have all these guys firing on all cylinders, but I have I just listed off like 9 guys right there. I feel pretty good about all of those options. And I don't know, especially after this weekend. I feel like this weekend should have eased a lot of concern. Maybe not necessarily about the bullpen because, it was really just a couple, 2 or 3 guys that really did the bulk of the load. But no, I don't really have any concern about the bullpen right now. And definitely not after today's outing from Ben Bybee. No doubt about that. Let's see. Steve Bardwell says, legitimate chance all 9 starters get to 10 home runs. Yeah, no, that's very much in place. I mean, I'm trying to think. Obviously, Kahio Aloy is at 8. Vahiva Aloy, I think, is already there. I think Bern Iredale's right around there. Maxwell Davalon right around there. Souza, I think, has 4. And of course, he'll need to, he'll be one of those that are kind of on the borderline, but hell, he's got he's certainly got enough power. He just missed a home run today, had one go foul. Ryder Helfrich has 5. He's starting to get it going a little bit with the power stroke. Thomas, I think, has 3 or 4. He might be one that maybe doesn't get to 10, but like you said, legitimate chance. Like you can make a very real argument. All it's going to take is like just one power weekend from any of those guys, and they'll be pretty much on path to do that. I think Cam Kojal's up to 5 now, and so it's legit, man. And I also think you're going to have a couple break the 20 home run mark there, which is always nice. Vince from me says Davalon must think that SEC baseball is a breeze. I love that. Let's see. Steve Bardwell says Bybee to the weekend, McIntyre to midweek. Will McIntyre did not pitch this weekend. In fact, it's weird. McIntyre has pitched better on the weekends than he has in the midweeks. In SEC play so far, Will McIntyre has gone 6 1/3 and has allowed 1 run, which I can't do the math on the spot, but like that's good stuff. He's been throwing. He hasn't thrown out he hasn't been used like way too much on the weekend or anything. I see people say stuff like this, but I really don't know what we're referencing. Like, what about this weekend made you think McIntyre got to get him out of the weekend? Like, he didn't even pitch this weekend. Why is Will McIntyre catching strays, man? What the hell? Let's see. Michael Kopesky says, this team has it. Fans, my only request is keep it loose with comments and not pressure the players. Which, I never would have thought that this sentence would come out of your mouth, Michael Kopesky, who I feel like puts a little bit of pressure on players every now and then. But hey, good sentiment. Love to see that. Hayden Ulmer says, got a new pup today. Dude has been absolutely locked in on the game and this post game since I got home. Love to hear that, man. Congratulations on you're a new family member. I hope it will serve you well, and I imagine it will. Dog is a man's best friend. Really appreciate that. Let's see. Chris Bennett says, it's just kind of sad to have to say maybe I can make your enjoyment of the game more when we are number 2 in the nation. Now, this is funny. I didn't mean like this particular team. I just meant in general, like for instance, like you're saying, this team's 26-3. Like any baseball fan is going to be enjoying this season. But I hope, regardless of whether the team's winning or losing, that, being a part of this show, listening, covering the team, and following along, I hope this show helps enhance the experience a little bit. So love to see that. Let's see. Yeah, a lot of people talking about Gage Wood. When you get him back, it's going to be loaded 100%. Ryan Bryant, a lot of RJ Austin love in the chat today. Love to see that. But Ryan says, if Austin hits the portal, we need to sell out. Great defender and a good replacement for a Davalon or a Thomas. I don't hate this at all, especially because RJ Austin, as good as he was this weekend defensively, has not had the offensive start that he maybe thought he was going to have. I think he's hitting just under 200 or under 300 with a home run. And this is the guy that hit 330 last year. So honestly, if you're a Hog fan, you should be hoping that RJ Austin just kind of continues to slump around a little bit. Wouldn't hate that. Wouldn't hate seeing that pickup, man. He's certainly a talented player. And like I was saying earlier, with some of these outfielders that Arkansas has brought in, almost all of them have a power increase. And so you take a guy in RJ Austin who's an elite defender and a high average guy, a guy that can get on base, guy that hits top, middle of the order, and then you go ahead and add some power to his game, dude would be a monster. And so we'll keep that one. We'll keep that one in our back pocket. We'll see that. Kip C says, per Warren Nolan, Arkansas has jumped to number 1 in RPI, if that is a big deal still. It's this Arkansas team, of course, is not going to be worried about the bubble. It's not like they're going to need their metrics to help them out. But hell, you're trying to get a national seed. You're trying to get a top 5, the best seeding possible. It always helps. So RPI matters. I always check D1 Baseball's RPI, but Warren Nolan has been doing it forever. Love that site. It's very useful. I did not know this, so appreciate you bringing this to the chat. Number 1 in RPI. When you go out there and beat a team 3 times on the road, a top 15 team on the road, a team that I don't believe, and I could be wrong on this, someone correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Vanderbilt has lost a game at home this season to anyone other than the Arkansas Razorbacks. And so not only do I think that's obviously good to go out there and sweep a road series, you just don't see that much. I think this is also going to be one that ages pretty well. I don't think a lot of teams are going to go out there and beat these guys too much. And Ryan Bryant says, I would like to see Michael Anderson get a couple ABs in midweeks. Was eager to see him before the season and haven't even gotten to see an at-bat from him. He played opening weekend. Against, I guess that was Washington State. He just kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit. I'm surprised it played out the way it did. Michael Anderson's a guy that I don't know if I was necessarily expecting him to start at first base every day, but I thought he would be in that mix. My only pushback for you, Ryan, is what are you going to do with them necessarily? Because are you going to bench Cam Kojal? Are you going to bench Nolan Souza and move Cam to second base? I guess that's probably the move, because I know everybody is not a big Nolan Souza guy, but I don't know. Rocco Pepe, who by the way was not listed on the availability report, a little surprised we haven't seen him in a while. I knew he was a little bit banged up last week, but he wasn't on the availability report, so I assume that means he's healthy. Surprised we didn't see him. If you're bringing Michael Anderson back, that means you're probably giving up on Rocco Pepe and or Nolan Souza, neither of which I would recommend giving up on. But who knows? Maybe I'm the weird one here. But also, of course, Kahio Aloy being what he's been at DH doesn't help either. But I'm a little surprised that Michael Anderson hasn't gotten more of a look, but I think the ship is kind of sailed on that. Who knows? See, you get to a few more chats, and again, really appreciate everybody for tapping in, man. This is awesome, and it's baseball season. Love to see the excitement. And so it makes my heart sore to see so many people fired up about the Razorback baseball team. And it's hard not to be excited when they're playing the way they have. Vince for me says, does anyone remember last year when we just had Vahiva Aloy break 10 home runs? This year, your leadoff hitter is going to have 10 home runs at least. I mean, he's going to have 10 home runs like next week. Insane jump in power, in my opinion. And Nate may deserve the credit. Which is, that's a buzzword right there, giving Nate Thompson some credit. But seriously, though, like, not just to Nate, but credit to the whole staff. And like the thing when I spoke about this in the offseason, and I think I did an episode titled, Does Arkansas Have a Nate Thompson Problem? My conclusion was that they don't really have a Nate Thompson, the hitting coach, problem. They had a Nate Thompson, the recruiter, problem. Like when you have an outfield that has Ty Wilmsmeyer, Ross Lovich, Will Edmondson, and, an injured Kendall Diggs, you're just not going to have the production that these guys have. When you have Parker Rowland starting behind the plate, when you have John Bolton starting at shortstop, like, it's really hard to have this type of production that Arkansas has. And so I feel like they had some whiffs in the portal, some whiffs in recruiting, whereas other teams were starting to soar. And that was kind of the big outlying issue rather than, some approach issue or anything like that. And so I definitely think Nate deserves some credit. But again, I've always said it was an overblown narrative that, like, Arkansas's struggles were directly because Nate sucks as a hitting coach. And so I definitely don't think that now that they're hitting well, it's because he changed up his methods as a hitting coach. I think he just went out there and got hitters, man. You gotta have some hitters, man. But Ryan does point out, he says, I wonder how much moving Nate to the dugout has helped. It opens the door for him to correct and coach up critiques live instead of having to do it between innings. Regardless, I'm here for it. No, certainly. I mean, when you take the type of jump that Arkansas has taken offensively, it's always going to be a collection of things. But I definitely think, it certainly seems to be a move that has not hurt. And so I think there's definitely something to that. And I know we like to make our fun about Nate Thompson and stuff, but like one of the things that I would say is his calling card is the preparation of knowing what you're facing. Hey, this pitcher likes to throw sliders in this count. He likes to lean on his heater when he gets to 2 strikes. I remember Michael Turner a few years ago saying he was like blown away. He was like, I've been hitting in college for 3-4 years. I've never had this detailed of a scouting report, this like much knowledge of what I'm facing. I think that's something that Nate is one of his best attributes as a hitting coach, is kind of preparing these guys for, hey, this guy, this is what his stuff is. This is where he'll like to attack you in counts. And so when you talk about his impact in the dugout, I think that's something you always see him with a little clipboard out there. And it's usually, in years past, we would see that while there was a pitching change or, like you said, between innings. And so it's definitely maybe it's only 1%, maybe it's 5%, maybe it's 50, but I think undoubtedly it's definitely helped. Kip C, this is a great comment. He says, also a big shout out to the social media team for the baseball team. They also had an excellent weekend of work. They do a great job, just period. I would say, like, their video stuff is always good. I always love seeing the DVH post-game speech to the team, the little minute and a half. Always good to see stuff like that. But yeah, they do a great job of just the videos that they put out. It looks like Scorsese directed it, man. They do just a really good job consistently, man. And love that. Gunner Files says, saw Woods several times this weekend to be the first guy out of the dugout to celebrate after a good play. Love to see that, man. Gage Wood is definitely, if nothing else, he is a personality that you want in your dugout, a personality that you want around your teams. No doubt about that. So Jaron Green says, is it the end of Diggs on the weekend, and where is Pepe? I just talked about Pepe, and I think this is after you commented, but yeah, Pepe, I was a little surprised not to see him. He was banged up last week, and I know he was banged up a little in the offseason. I don't know if that's maybe he's still a little bit not 100%. I think they also have made an intentional decision these last 2 weekends to just roll with this lineup and see if they can make it work. And it seems like it's worked out. And in terms of Diggs on the weekend, the only problem with Diggs on the weekend is that Logan Maxwell and Charles Davalon are just so good. It's really hard to take either of those guys out of the lineup. So if you're starting Diggs, you're probably taking out Justin Thomas, which, is not like the craziest decision ever, but they really like Justin Thomas's defense. And frankly, Justin Thomas has done enough at the plate, and Diggs has not done a ton at the plate in his opportunities to where, yeah, I think that's the case. But I feel like I see Kendall Diggs get shit on every weekend. He did not play last weekend or this weekend. But no, I do think this not the end of him on the weekend, but I'd say he's definitely on the outside looking in for right now. Let's see. Beef Cheeks says, I thought Gak looked much better yesterday. That was great to see and could be huge. I agree with that. Gackel looked awesome. Here's the thing that really stood out to me about Gabe Gackel's outing yesterday. Fastball command. Obviously, he throws 96, 98, will run it up in 90, 99. Like, it's electric. We've known that. And he's, it's not like it's been a fastball that he couldn't command in the past. When he's commanding his fastball the way he did the other day, he's going to be really tough to deal with, man. Like, his off-speed stuff is good, but I think the main attraction is the fastball. And I think his slider is really good too. His slider's a plus pitch. But if you're not locating the fastball, teams are kind of able to hone in on that stuff. And so his breaking stuff has been getting hit a little bit here lately. And it's because he hasn't been able to locate his fastball. And so he's kind of trying to throw that like get me over curve or that get me over slider. When he was, his fastball yesterday, he was living on the outside corner. So both righties and lefties, there's a lot of pitchers who, like maybe say a right-handed pitcher against a left-handed hitter. Some right-handed pitchers can really locate that arm side fastball. But then when it's a right-handed hitter, it's a little bit tough for them to land. Like they can't get it on that because it's obviously a switched different corner. And so you see a lot of pitchers that are usually good at one or the other. I love that Gackel was dotting that fastball on the outside corner. Even when he would fall behind 2-0, 2-1, he wasn't giving in and just grooving one. He was painting the corners and then tunneling the slider behind it, getting a ton of swings and misses. And so, you see Gackel when he falls behind in the count, his command's not as great, and you see his stuff get hit and you're like, his stuff might not be that great. No, his stuff's great. It's just when you're locating it, that stuff goes from good stuff to unhittable stuff. And when you're not locating, these hitters are good, man. These teams that Arkansas faces, they hit mistakes, and he's making fewer and fewer mistakes. Didn't walk anybody yesterday, which is really good. And some of the hits he gave up were, bloopers, little infield singles here and there. So pretty crazy. William Smith says, what's going on with Dietz? So we haven't, it's tough to say, every time we talk to Dave about it, which is about, every other week, he gives a little bit of a weird reaction. It seems like, he's coming back from injury, and I think he's fully healthy at this point, but you see this a lot where guys come back from injury and they're like a little bit scared to trust their stuff, whether it's like, say, a running back coming off of an ACL tear. Like I remember Nile Davis, when he broke his foot and came back for Arkansas the next year, didn't have that same side-to-side jittery explosion that you're used to seeing, because I think he's a little bit like kind of scared to trust it. And even if you say in your mind, like, oh yeah, I'm on good, when you're out there, it's a little bit tough. So it seemed like early on, that was the issue with Dietz, is like they couldn't get him to really just let it go. And so it's, week to week, they're throwing behind closed doors. And from what I can tell, they just have not liked what they've seen. Hunter Dietz is a guy that, last year in the fall for Arkansas was legitimately like 97 to 99 from the left side, like tantalizing, unbelievable stuff. And they've not only been not seeing that, he's been like 91 and 93 in the bullpens he's been throwing. His command's been all over the place as well. And so it's like, one thing if it's like, oh, I'm kind of working my way back and my velocity's not there, but I'm still pitching well. It just seems like when they throw, but whenever he throws behind closed doors, it just isn't going well. And so Dave said, I guess it was Wednesday, Dave said it's going to be at least a couple weeks before we see Hunter Dietz again. And so we'll see if that's the case. But it's not looking great on the Hunter Dietz front. I think Dave even point blank said it's not going great. So it is a little bit tough. Appreciate this comment from That's What She Said with Justine. Says, you make us folks out of state feel close to Fayetteville. This comment means a lot too, man. It was really cool. There was a commenter, I can't remember, I'm botching, I don't want to mess up the name, but there was a commenter on our Inside Arkansas live show the other day from the Pacific Northwest. And they were like, man, just love that you guys are covering the Hogs. It's really easy for me being out of state to keep up with the team. And that also is, again, like a big part of what we're trying to do here, man. And so I appreciate everybody who taps in, whether you're in the state of Arkansas, out. I hope that, we're all closer together as Razorback fans because of it, man. Love to see that. Kip C says, I do like having a vet bat on the bench if you need it. Those guys are never a bad thing to have, especially with a lot of SEC ABs. I'm assuming this is a reference to Diggs, and I'm sure it is, because Vids for me follows up with keep giving Diggs midweek opportunities. Want to see him get it going. Yeah, I think think that's probably what they should do. And to Kip C's point, Diggs, of course, that was kind of how he started his career at Arkansas. If you remember, he was like that freshman lefty bat off the bench, had the huge 3-run home run against Ole Miss to hit that walk-off. Like, it's he's a guy that kind of could be that dude. And when he's going right, he's a tough at-bat, takes his strikes, takes his walks, works the count against pitchers, also has a little bit of pop. Just hasn't been the same version of him since the injury last year. And he looked great leading up to the season, and then when we get to the season, just hasn't gone his way. And he's kind of gotten lost in the shuffle of this lineup, which has some pretty damn good outfielders. But yeah, I definitely don't hate the idea of him being kind of that pinch hit. Hell, him and Pepe as well. I mean, you got a lefty bat in Kendall Diggs, senior, been there before. A righty bat in Pepe, senior, been there before. So you can kind of mix and match, and both of those guys can play infield and outfield and a DH. Like, there's definitely some versatility there, man, for sure. And I mean, Carson Bowles, another guy who I feel like has worked his way into that mix, no doubt about that. Good right-handed bat off the bench. And another lefty in Gabe Frazier, the freshman infielder who could play some third, could play some short, could play some second, hit a huge grand slam last Tuesday. So maybe that kind of gets him going offensively a little bit. But Arkansas's definitely got some options, man. They've got way more options position player-wise than they've ever had. And I feel like they have more options pitching-wise than they've ever had. So it's been really good to see. So yeah, appreciate, we're wrapping up here in just a second. Appreciate everybody who is tapped in, man. Again, any other questions about whatever, get them in now. This is the time as I'm sending it out here, but I want to pull up this super chat here from Steve Bardwell, which again, appreciate all your comments today, and appreciate your passion for the Hogs. Says, love the coverage here from here in DFW. Well, I was just there yesterday, so just missed you, but yeah, we got a huge contingency of Hog fans in Dallas, man. It seems like it's popping more than ever. Appreciate you guys tapping in wherever it is you're tapping in from, whether that's West Coast, East Coast, in the state of Arkansas, in Fayetteville, Little Rock, Stuttgart, does not matter. Appreciate everybody for tapping in, man. And thanks for being here, man. It's a Sunday series recap. I definitely want to do more of these. We'll be able to get to a lot more of a structured schedule now that basketball season's over, and now that I'm not traveling every day. It's going to be nice to kind of get back in the saddle and get back to a routine, a rhythm here on the Baumbastic Podcast. Of course, tomorrow we will be back with just a normal episode of our weekend winners, sort of a final thoughts on the weekend and stuff like that. So really excited to get back to, like I said, some consistency here. And Arkansas's next game will be on Tuesday night in North Little Rock, Arkansas, in Dickey-Stevens. So you Central Arkansas fans, hope to see you out there. I'm trying to talk myself into going down there. I really it snuck up on me. Usually it's late April, and usually it's not right after we get back from traveling for the Sweet 16. But I'm trying to talk myself into getting down there for that game. I'm sure I will at some point. But excited for that one. And then, of course, another SEC weekend here at home in Baum-Walker Stadium against Missouri. Should be a nice stat padding weekend. Don't want to let one slip, man. Again, we spoke about this going into the South Carolina series. It's always a tough spot when you're going into a series and everyone is expecting a sweep, and they're going to kind of be annoyed if you don't sweep. But, got to do what you got to do. And so we'll see if the Hogs can take care of business against a very bad Missouri team. But like I said, we're getting back to a little bit of a normal schedule here on the Baumbastic Podcast. Going to have episodes every single day this week, so don't miss them. Make sure you're subscribed on this Inside Arkansas YouTube channel. Make sure you're also subscribed if you like to listen in podcast form. Appreciate everybody who does that. Make sure you're subscribed Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcast. We are on there. Leave us a nice little rating, thumbs up, review, whatever it is, depending on whatever site you're listening or watching on. I know the algorithm loves that, so that people know that we're cool and that they like what we're doing. Once again, appreciate everybody for tapping in. We went hour and 15 minutes. Didn't know if it was going to be this long. Didn't know if my internet was going to hold up. But I appreciate you guys bearing through it with me. So I'm going to get out of here. Let you guys enjoy y'all Sunday night. Again, thanks for everybody tapping into the Baumbastic Podcast. Very successful weekend for the Razorbacks. It's a lot more fun to do these when they win, aren't they? So once again, it's Andrew Ellis signing off with the Baumbastic Podcast. It's been a brilliant edition. Y'all have a great one.